So it's kind of, I mean, if you were to relate it to another group, it reminds you of NWA in the fact that you have some MCs and then two people DJing.
And doing production. Yeah.
So unlike, Gangstar, right, where you have one DJ.
One MC.
One MC.
Yeah. I mean, besides NWA, I think Jurassic 5 is a pretty unique group for the time that they came out. Mm-hmm. There weren't a lot of other groups like them, especially with having two DJs, two in-house producers.
And that's why I'm relating it to NWA, because there aren't too many groups that have that. Like, right. I mean, especially, it's one thing to have like a group of two, and then a group of three, I feel like is max, but I mean, to have four people on a track at one time, mm-hmm. you would think that would get super convoluted. Mm-hmm. And that's actually one of the notes that I put down for this album overall, was that with most groups, and I think of the episode that we did with Goody Mob. One of my critiques was that you have three people in here. They're not they're on the topic, but they're going in different directions. Mm-hmm. And to me, it wasn't cohesive. Jurassic 5 does a great job of building off of each other's thing or wrapping it back around to where everybody's verse makes sense for the track. So you almost want to look at the chorus to see, okay, what's the message of the song? And then you see if each one of their verses fits that topic, and it does every time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think they do an amazing job of being on the same page on every song. And then the way you mentioned it before, the way they harmonize a lot of the verses or the hook or the chorus, it definitely makes them sound more like one unit rather than four individuals spitting their verse about whatever, just going off, and then next song. It's very different than the Slaughterhouse. This is more similar to the Beastie Boys, where they would finish each other's verses or they would switch lines every time. Mm-hmm. Jurassic 5 definitely does that a lot, and they do it really well. And they do have a few songs where they spit longer verses, each of them. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, most of the songs, they'll spit 2 to 4 lines, and the next MC comes in and maybe finishes a line from before, and the next MC comes in, and it's kind of overlapped a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It's not till later in the album that you really have someone getting a longer verse. I mean, I want to say like 75% of this album is them really sharing the spotlight.
Right.
And you don't really have, I mean, I think of D12, where it's not explicit, but it's very clear that this is Eminem's group. This is not individual people amongst one thing. And the best person in that group is Eminem. And you have your worst person in their group being Bizarre. Yeah. In this group, I want to say there's people that stand out, but it's not taking over more than another person. For me, Tuna stands out the most. It's mostly because of his voice, and it's also because no one else is putting rhymes together like him. But he's not necessarily better because of that. He's just different and stands out because of his style.
Yeah, and his voice. I think Charlie Tuna has one of the most distinct and recognizable voices in hip hop.
Oh yeah.
And he's done the most solo work out of any of the artists. I mean, besides Cut Chemist and DJ Newmark, who've done a lot of projects on their own. But in terms of the rappers, Charlie Tuna's put out a good amount of solo material. The only other rapper that I've heard their solo material from is, let me see, Zakir. He's put out a project, I think like a year ago or 2 years ago, that I actually really liked. It was I forget the name of it. I'll have to look it up, but it was an amazing project, and I was like shocked at how good it was. And it was super underground. Like, I don't think many people even know about it, but Charlie Tuna's, and he's done a lot of features. Like, he's definitely more out there compared to the other artists. The other artists you don't even really know about, you know, outside of Jurassic 5.
I can see that, and I have to say, like, listening to this album, and what made me always think that there were only 5 members of the group is, if I'm not mistaken, to me, Zakir and Akil sound so similar that it's hard to differentiate and be like, oh wait, that's actually a fourth person rapping, because their styles
Right.
are similar and they sound alike.
Right.